In progress. Excellent. Okay. We are here live. All right, cool. So I want to welcome everyone who's watching, and been excited to have my guest again, second time on my show. He is one of my favorite, not just one of my favorite drummers, but one of my favorite musicians and composers. And today we're going to talk with my guest about his newly upcoming new release called Solor Flash, a new body of work, a new recording, which I happen to have the music, and I've listened to it for a while now, a couple weeks, and I absolutely love this. And so I want to welcome my special guest, Mr. Asaf Sirkis. How you doing, my friend?
Thank you. I'm doing well, and it's great to be on the show again.
Great to have you, man. You sent me the links a while ago to preview, I guess is maybe the word, and I just put it on repeat. It's like a friend of mine, a great keyboard player, recently was telling me. Steve Hunt was saying the rewind factor, and
Yeah.
this definitely has. I really mean this sincerely. Has a rewind factor because I keep going back and back and back. And I just start with this CD. What's interesting is different than a lot where I'll play one song over and over. I just start at the beginning. I go all the way through and repeat.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful flow to the order of songs. So
Well,
just first of all, bravo on this because this is absolutely
thank
epic.
you. Thank you.
Tell me, well, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm okay. I'm in Germany right now. So I moved between Germany and UK, so I'm now in the Germany phase. So I've been here for maybe 3 weeks now. Really enjoying the weather, and yeah, it's always great to be here. I've got like a studio here, little practice room, and
Oh,
place to
nice.
play the drums. So it's really great, and yeah, I'm really excited about this new album, which has been it's been like a long process. I think this album took me the longest of all my other albums. I think it took me about 2.5 years to make, believe it or not. So
Sure,
uh,
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like 2.5 years every day, all day working on it, but it took me that much time to. I guess, I needed that much time to for this concept to arise out of the music,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. So, like you said, it's and I was hoping that people, that listen to it say what you say. I want to listen to the whole story again because uh, to the whole album again because it's like a story. It's like it takes you on a journey, I hope. And
Oh, that's a perfect word. That's a perfect word to describe it. Yeah, it's definitely a journey.
yeah. And I wanted something um, that will have a lot in the emotional spectrum. So, like, not just hard hitting fusion. And for me, it's always, Gary Husband is one of my favorite musicians, both drums and keyboards. You
Yeah,
know,
me too, man.
which is, whenever I get a chance to play with him, or even just to listen to him live, or not even live, it's always a thrill for me because of his energy and I've been doing that since my mid-teens. I've been listening
Sure.
to him, and so from one hand, it's great to have him because of all those Alan Holdsworth things that I've listened. But on the other side, it could be a little tricky because I don't want to sound like I'm Gary Husband playing on an Alan Holdsworth track. So, which I guess it's inevitable because I've listened and transcribed so much from what he was doing, but I was really aware of that in the recording as well. So not everything has to be like hard hitting fusion. And because there are other things, I've been listening to other things as well, and
Hmm.
it's important was important for me to also show those sides with Gary on board. So it's I think that the economy, that little thing there, little struggle that I had, like, good struggle,
Hmm.
has kind of led me to that concept of that story, that arc of the album. And it was really important for me to have the voice there, and something that doesn't have drums on it as well, and something that has a complete different vibe to it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Gary is. I've gotten to know him over the past couple of years and become friends, really. And he's, first of all, he's one of the nicest people alive. He's one of the nicest people. He's also plays with so much feeling and emotion, you know. And I mean, I think he's a genius on drums and piano. His compositional skills too, but the combination of the two of you together is really good, man. Really wonderful. It's like you're in sync with each other. I mean, obviously, on albums, and a lot of it's done remotely these days, anyways. Even prior to the pandemic, you're in sync on an energy and soul level, is what I mean, not just a click track. So it's beautiful, man. I love everything that everybody plays on this album.
Well, and again, I've been listening to Gary so much over the years, and it's like the way he plays, and the music he was involved with is such a big part of my musical soul.
I'm sure.
So
Absolutely.
it's like effortless.
Yeah.
When he plays, I don't even have to think about what to play. It's just goes there. And again, it's a great thing to have, but it's also can be a bit dangerous, because I don't want to sound like Gary. I could easily go there. Not that I can sound like him, but I could easily go that route. But it was really also important for me to keep that aspect of that too.
I'm sorry, I was listening. I was sharing this on two other pages because I want to bring more people in. Um,
Cool.
yeah, we talked about this the first time we had this type of conversation on Zoom. Um, we have well, you, not me. I try, but you do the ability to feel music rather than. It's kind of like there has to be. How would you describe this when you go from the conscious aspect of playing, and you know what you're doing, and maybe even thinking about stickings that they just come up in your mind, you hear something coming up you want to do, and you're like, but but most of the time, and especially for someone like you, you're not that's not an issue. You've all the chop stuff is that's down, you got that. But the feeling part and the letting go of the consciousness and really get into the feeling aspect is such an amazing um, a place to be, I guess is what I'd say. And I know Gary goes there. I know you go there. So the two of you together, I think that might be one of the things that makes this so special. I mean, would you agree about that? Because I just feel that's the other thing too, is I can listen to a lot of great fusiony stuff from now or back, and it might be great. But there's also the next level, like well, you said Holsworthian feeling kind of stuff. That goes way
Yeah,
beyond. That's deep.
yeah,
And that's what
absolutely,
you've
yeah.
done here.
Well, thank you. I mean, it for me it is. I would say something again, because I've again listened so much to what that kind of music that Gary was doing, and all that stuff. It kind of comes easily, and it's kind of my type of music. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up with that, and here it is. And and again, one of the things, and this is also true for Kevin, the bass player, who is equally like me, been listening to Alan Holdsworth and been
Mm-hmm.
transcribing, and as a younger musician, and all that kind of thing. So the combination of the three of us, and me, Gary, and Kevin are the core trio of the album. So it was the first piece on the album. I called it had we didn't have a name until just before the release of the album, and I call it Kinship because of that. Because
Oh.
and that was the first tune that we recorded on the first day, first
Mm-hmm.
session. And it was just obvious that um, we are speaking in a certain language. And I never like considered myself so much of a jazz drummer in the traditional sense of the word.
Sure.
I've always been into other things, but when people speak about language, musical language, I think about the bebop and the jazz language and all that kind of thing. And for me, it was always something just a little bit out of reach. But because I just wasn't into that music as much as it was to into Weather Report and Alan Holdsworth and Yes and Genesis and all the and also some and other like maybe Indian music or other things like that. So, but then when we started the session, I said, okay, we're actually speaking in a language. We are speaking in that language. What it is, we call it fusion or 70s fusion or Alan Holdsworth or I don't know, Mahavishnu Orchestra. I don't know what to call it, but there was a common definite language there. So I call it kinship because of that, because of that feeling that we had from the first
Well,
from the
I tell
first
you,
get go.
as soon as I heard like the first two bars of that song, I was, oh man, because boom da 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 da, and I'm like, oh man, because that's a great opening, man. It's a
Thank you,
great, great, great opening.
thank you.
I was
But
immediately pulled in. Not that I wouldn't have been, but
yeah,
immediately just pulled in. Like, well, maybe I'll just, if you don't mind, maybe I'll just play a couple measures because just
okay.
a little preview teaser for people. But freaking awesome, man. And your drums and your cymbals, everything just sounds so great. Um,
Thank you.
I love it. Just what a great way to start the CD. Holy cow!
Yeah, yeah.
Strong.
Actually, when I wrote that tune, I thought this is an opener probably, and it, and sometimes when you record an album and then you listen back to it, then everything changes. But with this one, it was that's the first tune. That's a first tune.
Yeah, I love it. And then, well,
Yeah.
what's really one of the things that just blows my mind always is like Gary, for example, after it gets through the first section of the song, the intro and everything, he goes into using some kind of keyboard sounds and voicings that are just so cool and like haunting, and some of them remind me of like 80s analog sounds, which I loved so much, but they're even better because they're digitized, but they sound like a better
Hmm.
upgrade of analog.
Hmm.
Beautiful textures and sounds.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
quite raw as well, which I really like.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
It's so exciting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when you hear the sound, his sound, his solo sounds. That's Gary, because he's always raw and always energetic. Always has the energy and the focus, and always unpredictable. You know, so
True.
those sounds are part of that.
It's like, where do you come up with all these ideas on the spot? It's just, I admire that so much. From
Yeah, and it's
Um,
never the same. It's never the same.
right.
Always something else.
Well, that's another thing that's interesting too is people like you and Gary. Um, you know, well, when I was talking with Steve Hunt a couple of different times, he was telling me how gigs when he was touring with Holdsworth, there would be similar similarities between tunes gig to gig, but never, and you know this too, I mean, never were they the same 2 nights in a row or two
Yeah.
sets in a row. If they did the two same, and they're like the Regatta Bar in Boston, I saw them there once. 2 sets in a row, no. The tune was different the second time around if they played the same tune twice. And I
Yeah.
love that. I love it.
Yeah, I mean that's just that taking the risk and just stretching and being in the moment. That's I think Alan Holdsworth bands, all of them. Gary, Steve, uh, Jimmy Johnson, or Alan, of course. Uh, Real improvisers, basically
Yeah.
playing real improvised music, but with a framework of there's a tune, a melody, a chord sequence
Mm-hmm.
that's still there, but it's real improvisation. Like you'd hear free jazz or whatever. It's improvising as much, almost,
Right.
on that kind of concept.
Right. So please, when I say this as a compliment. So I'm gonna chunk in two thoughts here. The next song, what's the name of the next song? Is
The
Under
second
the
one,
Ice.
under the ice. Yeah, yeah.
So as soon as I heard the opening, I immediately thought of Tokyo Dream. I don't know why. It's not Tokyo Dream. It's clearly not. It's not even the same number of the. But there's I've thought of Holdsworth right away. That's the first part of this. The second part is it's uniquely you. But I think we can hear sometimes people's influences. And what I really admire is your ability to take your influences, Holdsworth or whoever, and make your own thing out of it. And you distinctly have your own voice as a player, like drumming, as a composer. You have your own thing, and I commend you for that. I wish I could even write like a 3-note melody. There's a really bad joke. If I had to write a song to save my life, I'd be dead.
Well, with writing is actually something that also took me a long while to do. I mean, I've been doing this since I'm in my late teens. I started to write music, but what I found, um, actually, that's a good point, because you might want to try that, actually, if you have time. I read a book. I forgot the name. Forgive me, I forgot the name of the author. He's quite a famous jazz pianist that I should remember his name. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Effortless Mastery.
Oh, I think
Um,
it's Kenny Werner.
Kenny Werner, that's right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I read it in my early 20s, just around the time that it was published. And it said something about how to compose music, and I've been using that technique ever since. And
Oh,
it's basically just compose one tune a day, and compose for the, how do you say, to the trash can, to the dustbin.
mm-hmm.
Not for the album, not for the gig, not for the rehearsal,
So
just
it's
to go from point A, just to finish one tune. And you do that, and excuse me, most of the stuff I come up with is pretty crap. But after a while, something really interesting happens. Better and better stuff starts to come up, or at least stuff that you'd say, okay, I'd like that on my new song, or I'd like that on my new album.
it makes
And so,
sense.
for instance, for every tune in this album, I probably written 10 or 12 tunes that are just stacked away somewhere, on a hard drive or whatever.
Hmm.
But just the act of doing this every day, just writing a tune, and it doesn't take that long, you know. Sometimes takes me half an hour, sometimes an hour. If things doesn't go so well, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, but that's it, you know. And after a while of doing that, nice things starts to come up, or at least things that you like, and it's, you know, the creativity starts to flow. And it's, you know, it's just the practice of doing that over and over every day that
You
made
know, it's
me
almost like, especially with the work I do, I should have think of it differently, um, but like an exercise. It's like exercising your composing chops, right, and your abilities. And you start at basic level, like we do with everything, right? I started speaking Spanish at level 101, and now I'm starting to get advanced. But it took years of practice, though. Um,
sure.
that makes sense. I don't know why I never really thought of composing songwriting like that, but you know, every once in a while I do get a sound in my head. It's usually when I'm half asleep. I can't remember. But
You need
yeah,
the
you know,
keyboard near.
I think that's great advice, though. It completely makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard about
Kenny
that book
Werner.
too. Steve Hunt was
Yeah,
telling me about the book, and so was Sergio Balati and Skip Hadden. They say it's a great book.
yeah. I think this book has made a little bit of a revolution in the world of music, or of jazz musicians, I guess. Around, I think it was late 80s or early 90s when it came out. I can't remember.
That could be,
But around that time, I think a lot of people read it and were really influenced by it, including myself, you know.
yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So tell us more. I'm curious to know. Well, this video will be up, you know, forever after it's released. But right now it's July 13th, 2021, and this comes out in a couple of days.
Yeah, yeah. On the
So for people who
15th.
see this right away, and I'll post that new Bandcamp link that you had,
Yeah.
so for people to go there and download or buy. Will there be physical CDs as well?
There will be physical CDs. I've got them here.
Oh, great. Oh, cool.
Um,
Yeah,
just got
actually,
them
if you
from
don't
the
mind, can you
factory.
show that closer? Just
Yeah.
show that
So
the
we got
artwork
that.
is
I hope you
beautiful.
can see. Thank you. It's done by Sylvia
Uh huh.
Bialas, who is singing on the album, and
Right.
she
Oh
also did
yeah,
the
and oh, the vocals. That's another thing I'd like to get to, is talking about the vocals too.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
beautiful artwork. Um,
yeah.
well, let's tell me anything more that you want to. I know I'd love to hear also some about how you decided to implement vocals, because you know I think it's one thing to go in and do. I sometimes I just don't know how to say things, so just please forgive me, everybody. Just, you know, lyrics and all that. That's fine. It can be beautiful, but the way you've implemented vocals in this, to me, it just goes deeper. I mean, where did that come from?
Well, you know, for me, it's not just vocals, because for the sake of vocals, it's the voice of Sylvia. So it's the same like when I compose music. I usually think about the people that would be involved.
That
So
makes
you know,
sense.
I could hear Gary, and I could hear Kevin, and you know, Mark Wingfield is on some of
Oh,
the
God, I
album,
love the way
and
he
I
plays.
could definitely hear his sound there, and of course Sylvia. You know, so it's not just any voice; it's her
It's
voice.
absolutely,
It's
I
her
understand.
voice,
Yes.
and I think what you're talking about is the atmosphere and the heart and the soul that she's bringing into the music, you know. And again, it dovetails so nicely to me wanting to have a little bit more of a rounded vision, rather than this kind of narrow-minded, chopsy kind of fusiony, call it whatever you call it, type of thing.
Hmm.
And just to take it a little bit out of that box, you know, that was the initial thought. And then Sylvia. I mean, of course, you know that I've worked with Sylvia for a long time with
Yeah.
the Sirkis Bialas IQ bands, which we released 2 albums and been touring quite a
Right.
lot. Um, so her contribution here is really to bring that other side of things to the
And
album.
she does so well too.
I
Because
I
really,
I,
I
I
think that
agree.
adds so much to
Yeah,
the that depth, that feeling that that you've gotten, in my opinion, that you've created from compositions, and definitely specifically her voice. It's not like just
yeah,
any voice can do it.
that's right. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I
So
love that.
so yeah, that aspect of things was really important for me, and I knew she everything she sings on has that quality. So I really want some of that in this story as well, because also some people know already, but Sylvia is my girlfriend, so she's part of my life as well, and
Hmm.
we have a life together, and that's our life. So this is part of the story as
That's
well.
great. That's
and
fantastic.
and and I also feel that I don't want to sound derogative or whatever, but I think that music nowadays, not everything, but slightly missing that aspect sometimes. Um, that aspect of just being a bit more vulnerable and true and real.
Hmm.
I think with social media being prevalent and us as musicians having to create 30-second clips of us playing every note that we can play. uh, I think there's a place for that in music too, especially these days.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. What I find myself looking for, seeking, is music that reaches me at a soul level. Because I mean, I'll just say how it is for me. I have um, listened to so much stuff over the decades and enjoyed so many different things, and I feel like there's a lot of rehashing that's going on. But I get it too, because sometimes that's what people want. Sometimes that's what they want to perform, and then the other people, their audience, that's what they want to hear. But there's a group of us out there who are seeking more, deeper. I'll never forget the first time I saw Alan Holdsworth, 1986. It was in the fall, and I'd never heard of him. I couldn't believe it. I'd heard of Chad Wackerman, and he was on the gig with Jimmy Johnson. It was a trio, and so uh, they were open for the Chick Corea Electric Band with Weckl, who I actually went there to see Dave Weckl. And I love Dave, and we've gotten to know each other, and he's always been very nice to me, and he's a great musician, really nice guy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Uh, I was there to see him because I'd never seen him before. He was brand new on the scene, pretty much. So I'm like, well, I know Chad's on the gig before opening, so it must be pretty good. Little did I know when they came out it would change my life, because what happened is they reached me at a soul level, and also there's just cerebrally, I think what was happening was so indescribable, and the feeling I walked out with on the intermission actually made me want to go home. And I couldn't believe it. And my friends, no, you can't go home, man. You got to see. Well, I know I came here, and I'm sure I know it's going to be great, but I'm not in the mindset to see them now. I just don't think I want these sounds to leave my head. That's when it really took me down a different path. When I saw Holdsworth, but I went in and saw Chicken. It was fantastic, and I bought a bunch of CDs of Alan the next day at the record store. So, but that kind of experience makes me seek more of the same that's different. right?
Yes.
So with
Yeah.
your new CD coming out here, I mean, there it is again. Now I'm getting fresh, new, soul-reaching, deep, emotional, beautiful music that takes me on a journey, and not a lot of music takes me on a beautiful journey like this does. I'm saying this over and over because I can't express how much I love this CD and how it affects me. You know, it actually triggers a lot of emotions and memories, and fortunately, they're all good. But I mean, it's beautiful. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's great to share this as well for me, and it also being a very emotional thing to release this album. And it's to be quite frank with you, it's not easy when you um, when you say, okay, I'm gonna make an album that expresses who I am in the most true way that I can describe or I can do. Okay, so um, but then of course you're showing yourself with all the imperfection and the little things that don't work sometimes, and the things that you would like to do better next time as well, and all that. There's a lot of that there actually, uh, for me. So it's a kind of a process where you kind of show yourself with your vulnerabilities, and that's kind of really part of the process. And it's a little scary, was for me,
Sure.
to be honest. And it's like, what would people think about this, what would drummers think, and all this kind of things,
So
where
you are putting yourself in a vulnerable position.
yeah, both, in the making of the music, and also the presentation is that, has that too.
Sure.
So I sometimes think, so I hope people will like this, because it's there's some things there which I know, maybe I would do better next time,
I think it's partially called growth, right? But at the same
Sure.
time, though, you're always when I listen to you, I feel like I'm always hearing the authentic, genuine, real you. And now with these compositions too, I'm hearing the authentic, genuine you. It's who you are. It's coming out of you in this format. This is one way of expressing. So if you create music this nice, you must be a really great guy. I mean,
I
seriously. I
hope
mean,
so,
I know
yeah.
you are, anyways. I mean, Leonardo was raving about you, and he still does. I saw him about 3 weeks ago, just before he went to Italy. He was here in my
Yeah,
town with
yeah, I
the
saw the
Lemon Brothers,
pictures,
so
yeah.
that was fun.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
to see him, and I mean, it's funny when I hear beautiful music. Well, I have to tell you though, there's one guy I know who creates some of the most beautiful music. I don't like him, but I know there's something good in there because he creates the most beautiful music. And I like
Yeah,
just about
yeah,
everybody. I
yeah,
don't. I also don't dislike him. He's just kind of a pain in the butt. But otherwise,
yeah, yeah.
I just figure there has to be something at a soul level that's going on with people who create music like this that just says, "Man,
Yeah.
you're the real deal." Yeah.
Yeah, but from the other side, like you say, it's like, because you are putting yourself in that much of a vulnerable position. So some people, how should I say this? Some people deal with that in better way than others.
Ah, sure.
So and everybody has his predispositions and the way you were brought up, and you know and so it's kind of complex. you know you can hear music from someone and think, oh wow, this is amazing, he must be a great guy, and then meet him or her and then say, mm, I'm not sure. And but they are like you, like every other artist, are in the same vulnerable position
Yeah.
where they have to deal with that 24/7, and some people dealt with that in a better way than others. And
Yeah.
I've been working with some artists that I admire for a long time, and I've seen different ends of the spectrum where people, you know, uh, people are, like Alan, for instance. I mean, I don't say that I didn't know him personally that well, but he would sometimes be quite difficult to be, is not as approachable as other people. And,
Yes.
I'm sure Leonardo has told you some stories about that. And I'm sure
Mhm.
you've got your own stories about that. But there are some other guys who are equally amazing artists who are very open, or I mean, a great example is Chick Corea, who sadly passed away
Mhm.
recently. And again, I didn't play with. I did just one recording with him long time ago, but I didn't play with him on a regular basis or knew him on a personal level that well. But he was the nicest guy I've ever seen.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, you know. I knew him through Tim Garland, who's a saxophone player
Oh,
from
saxophone. Yeah.
UK. He played in his band for many years, and I played in Tim's band for still many years.
Um,
So I got to know him through Tim, and it was such an amazing experience just to get to know him. Uh,
yeah. I
but
actually
it's
interrupting, but I saw Tim. It was I just ran across the brochure the other day. 2014. It was Tim Garland with Chick and Carlos Del Puerto, y Marcus
yeah,
Guerra,
yeah, yeah,
and a
yeah,
couple others. But and Tim, wow, what a player Tim is! Holy
yeah,
cow,
yeah,
man!
yeah. He's great,
And I
great
had never
composer
met
as
Chick.
well.
Pardon?
Great composer as well. Not only
Really?
a great player, but as a composer, he's very strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed. My mom was with me, and we really enjoyed that show. And I have a recording of that show. Don't tell anybody.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really nice. I never met Chick. Seen him probably about 20 times, maybe over the years, starting in Return to Forever around '74 when Di Miola had just joined the band. And I always loved him. But in the conversations I've seen him have, like with Gary Husband and other people, he always seemed like he was approachable and nice.
Very, very, very much like that. And I remember I remember one night after a gig I went to see the band with Tim, and they invited me to come to dinner with him, and there was like the crew was there, and the musicians were there, and a few guests, and it was like a large table in a restaurant, and Jake was sitting in one end and talking to the people who was there, and then he went to the other end to speak with the other people that he didn't know, or we
Oh,
didn't speak to him. So I thought I thought this guy is really nice,
that's cool. So,
so
what did you record with him?
it was a part of an album called The Mystery, the album of Tim Garland.
Oh, okay.
uh, and the album included Chick on a few numbers, myself, and the Northern Symphonia Orchestra, and Tim, of
Really?
course.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
I'll have to look for that.
yeah. It
That
was
would be fun to hear.
a big production. Yeah, yeah,
So, let's see. The Solor Flash is going to come out this week. I'll
yeah,
have a Bandcamp link for people to go to. I'll make sure I reshare this interview too a few times over the next few weeks, just so people can watch it, but also have the link in there. And that link you sent me this morning is the best one for people to go to and buy,
yeah.
download.
That is
Okay.
where you can find it. Yeah.
And it's funny. I really like physical CDs, but I don't buy them very often unless I'm like at the Levin Brothers show or something, and they have the merch desk. But can they also buy physical CD on Bandcamp?
They can. I don't think at the moment they can, but from the 15th it will be possible.
Okay, yeah. So it'll be available. That's great. So let's. What plans do you have in the future? Like as far as this Solor Flash goes, are you going to do any kind of gigs or touring or anything like that?
Well, with everything that happens at the moment, it's very difficult to plan things ahead, and also given that Gary and also the other guys are quite busy.
Sure.
I don't know if we will. I hope at some point we will actually get to play live, but I'm not sure whether it will happen and when. So for now, it is what it is. It's the album, and hopefully we'll do some more. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, if it does, let me know because I'll share it. And I
absolutely.
don't know. I'm starting to travel again for my work, so
Yeah.
not sure if I'll be in Europe. Probably not this year, but next year I'm supposed to go to Poland in March for 2 weeks. I've
Okay.
never been to Poland,
Wow.
so maybe I'll try
Yeah.
to find you and see if you're gigging
Okay.
anywhere
Okay.
and hang out.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Nice one.
Anything else you want to share with me, my friend, before we sign off?
Well, no, not really, but just thank you for having me, and it's always great to speak to you, and I appreciate very much, very very much people like you who listen to the behind the notes, people who listen behind the notes, not just to the notes, and I've always believed that the notes that you play are just signposts, and you need to look behind the signs, what they are pointing to. Yeah, so it's always been like this for me. So thank you for listening, and
Oh, it's my
I'm glad you
pleasure.
liked it, man.
And that's actually just let's expound upon that just a little bit because this is one of those things that I'm pretty sure you and I talked about it before, but I've had this discussion with many musicians, and one of the most interesting and amazing things to me is that there are people like you, and Gary Husband, and John McLaughlin, and Alan Holsworth, and Chick Corea, and the list goes on, where all they have to do is maybe just play a few notes and you know who it is right away. And to me, that's really special because they have, you and them have reached this level or capability of you now come through the music. When I remember Terry Bozzio talking about this too, is if somebody sat down and played every drummer who was with Frank Zappa had to play the Black Page, and every drummer sounded different because every drummer is different, right?
Yeah.
I find it interesting that in something as minimal as just a cymbal, a ride cymbal, if you listen, there's a good chance if you are trained ears and listener, you're going to know if it's Elvin or Roy or Gary or somebody. You'll just know because that voice is coming through with a stick and a cymbal. And the same thing with like piano and everything, really. Like look at Marcus Reuter, right? With what he does on the touch guitar versus other people. It's Marcus. By the way, I can't wait to hear Truce 2.
Yeah, that's going to be great. Yeah.
You recorded that a couple weeks ago or last week?
Yes, we did. Last week, yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
There's
me too.
another guy I love. Marcus is so cool.
Yeah, very unique.
I have Truce 1 and I love Truce 1.
Yeah.
But that quality is, to me, that's what I'm seeking all the time now. I love it. The identity. That's something I never really. I've got to work on achieving that myself. Maybe one day.
Well, it's
Carl
just
Sterling on the right cymbal. Yeah, right. Not sure I'll get that far.
Well, the thing is, it's just a combination of you doing the work as a drummer, as a musician, as a composer, as a band leader, even or
Sure.
whatever, doing that work, and also having a life, just being who you are, and living life, and every one of us is growing up in a different place, even if it's in the same country, or even in the same city, or same town, or whatever. Everybody's going to have different life experience, and at the end of the day, when when you put everything else away, that's what speaks. That's what speaks. That's who you are. Your life
True. Yeah.
experience, and as much as it's great to transcribe when you're younger, and you want to transcribe, say, other musicians, other drummers, if you're a drummer, and it's great to do that, to see how it is to be a Gary husband, how it is to be an Alan Holdsworth,
Yeah.
and just play the same notes, and it's great to do that. At the end of the day, it's all that needs to fall away, fall
Hmm.
to the
Yeah.
sidelines. I really like uh, uh, what's his name? Sorry, I'm very bad with names today. Uh, there was a famous saxophone player, jazz saxophone player. Sorry, Bird,
No
Charlie
problem.
Parker.
Yes. Okay.
my
Sure.
my head is so sometimes it doesn't work. Charlie Parker, who, by the way, practiced his instrument many hours. I think much more than a lot of us these days.
Hmm.
And he said something that I'll never forget. You need to practice everything. You know, to practice everything, and to practice a lot, and then forget it.
Oh,
And that's something I've always thought about.
interesting.
Yes, I mean, practice. When you're practicing, it's all that focus mindset, and when you're in you're deliberate, trying to be deliberate about what you're doing, what you're learning, and how you're learning, and how you're practicing it, and how long, and trying to
Yeah.
get the best method for yourself to practice this or that.
That's
But at the end of the day, when you come to play, it's a flow. And when you speak about flow, for instance, Gary husband is the best example, because he gets to the flow from beat one. you know so he pressed the keys. The first key is in a flow. And that's why, when you listen to what he's doing, what he's playing, it kind of takes you to another place. It's not just a person pressing keys, the right
yeah.
keys in the right time. It's much more than that. It's like transcends beyond that, because is in a certain mental or psychological state, you can say, that kind of transcends all the technicalities, and just puts it all together, and you know tells you that story.
Yeah. It's well, I love how you put that. I was just thinking other things too, like stylistically. Um, well, for example, I just recall, especially on the second song. I mean, all the songs, it's you playing drums, but I was really caught up into listening to on the second song some of the things you do between ride and snare. Just those two. I mean, there's other stuff going on, but the way you're um, the phrasings, just the way it's put together, and then some of the let's say polyrhythms. My brain is not working today. Pardon me,
I
Mr.
think
Ego
the feeling is
Phone.
mutual. The feeling
Yeah,
is mutual.
I don't know what it is. I slept really good, but I feel
Okay.
slow in my mind. But
Yeah.
there's some of these things where you're stretching over the bar line, and it's not necessarily a complicated like busy fill polyrhythm. It's a thing going on, and just the elasticity within this that creates this tension, but a release that's beautiful. Oh man, like I just love the way you do that. I love the way you build and release, and just give us that feeling, you know. Your cymbals sound freaking awesome, man, and the drums too. I mean, I
Thank
love
you.
those cymbals. I want them.
Thank you. Well, it's a set of Istanbul Agop cymbals, which I endorse. The
Yes,
drums the
love
drums
them.
were the drums were actually, you'd laugh, but it's like a Pearl export. That's all it is. That's what the studio has there.
Uh
So, and the bass drum was almost falling apart during the recording, but
I love the backstory behind some of this stuff, you know. Yeah.
the bass drum has this the spur, the thing, and it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of falling off, and the whole bass drum was kind of shaking. But yeah, I with the drums, I always bring my own drum heads, and I spend a
Oh,
lot of time tuning the drums.
good idea.
So I was actually quite happy, although the kit was not maybe the top of the range line, but it gave me what I wanted for the sound, and nice big long tones, which I really like.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and whoever the engineer was recording and the mixing is fabulous.
yeah,
All straight across the board,
Jesus, yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the guy that did all the all the MoonJune albums in Spain.
Oh
It's
yeah.
in the same. It was recorded in the same series of sessions in
Okay.
2019 or 18. I can't remember now. But we recorded other things as well. But this was just one of the things that we recorded during
Okay.
that session. But it was done with the same kit, same microphones, I think, as far as I can remember.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, again, I can't say enough good about this, and this is the kind of this is a recording for example, for me, it's one of those I'll go back and listen to for forever. I mean, I'm listening to it now a whole lot, and but I'll always come back to it to listen because I'll always hear something new, and also hear things I love over and over and over again. So for people who are watching, be sure to look for a posting coming up. Let's see, the 15th. It'll be available. We can
15th,
post
yeah.
now though, in pre-order, or is there a pre-order thing, or how does
Yeah, I
that work?
mean, it's available for download right now on my band campaign.
Okay.
It will be available, on MoonJune. I think on MoonJune, actually, it's actually available as a pre-order right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
But in a couple of days, it will be available as physical and as download too
Okay.
through
Well,
Bandcamp.
I'll be sure to include links for purchase and downloads. Uh, but get it, folks. And I'm going to go into my little spiel here. I say this because I mean this sincerely. If you're in a position where you can afford to download or buy, please do, because musicians, they put their life, well, like Asaf has put his life into creating music. A lot of musicians do. And so, as the great keyboardist George Whitty told me, there's a time and place for Spotify and some of the others. It's a good tool. And yes, you can stream a lot of things. You can stream my CD on there. But what we're hoping is that if you find something you like on there, you'll actually go and buy it and show your support, because it's a lot of hard work, man. It's hard work. It comes from the heart. There's the work part of it. There's the getting the talent together, the musicians together. It's decades of experience going in and creating a body of work like this. And whatever you pay for it, it's worth it. Support the musicians by buying the music, please. I just had to say that.
Thank you.
It's easy to get stuff for free these days, and I refuse to do
Yeah.
that. I mean, somebody sends me a link, that's okay, but I'm gonna promote the heck out of it because people need to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So buy
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, man. I love you. You're a great human. You're a great composer, musician, drummer, and it's an honor to know you. It's an honor to have this CD and listen to it. I'm so glad it's out well, in a couple of days, and I'm so glad I have
in a
it.
couple of days. Yeah.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. It's really great to talk to you too, and I hope you have good travels. I know you've been traveling quite a lot, and yeah, hopefully we'll meet one day in person,
Oh, we will. Absolutely, we
somewhere,
will.
someday,
No doubt.
and yeah,
All right, my friend. Well,
never.
I'm going to sign off here and go work with some of my people who I help and get ready for a trip to Mexico tomorrow. But thank you for joining me. And I'll be in touch
It's a
later
pleasure.
today just with a couple of ideas and thoughts. But we'll get this circulated and out there. And I hope people buy it up and just let's enjoy it so much like I do. Thanks,
Great,
man.
man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Take
lot.
care. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye bye. Thanks to everyone for watching too. Bye bye.